We're so excited to be back at Glendale Community College for the Latina Power in STEM conference. Technolochicas is a campaign and a program that's brought to you by the National Center of Women in Information Technology and the Televisa Foundation that aims to inspire young Latinas and inform their families about the opportunities that come from pursuing careers in tech.
Good morning! How's everybody doing? Great. Well, welcome on behalf of Glendale Community College to our third annual Latina Power in STEM conference. This is an exciting day for all of you guys to explore STEM careers and be inspired by all of our professionals. My name is Elisa Quintana, and I'm a STEM counselor here at GCC. And here is my colleague, Richard Cortez, our STEM counselor at GCC as well. Okay. First of all, we would like to acknowledge everybody who participated to make this event possible. Our Technolochica manager, Jenny Fernandez. And all of the presenters that we have in our program. Okay, so Dr. Cortez?
Yes, well, thank you so much. We have an action-packed day for you. I just want to make sure that everyone has a lanyard, because the lanyard is your lunch ticket. When we're out in the plaza in the green grassy area, for those of you that was here last year, it's going to be in the same area. But I just want to make sure that you are fed, and at the same time know that we've concentrated our classrooms in the local area. The administration building is right behind you. So in case you have any questions, we will be actually having guides, as soon as we're done with the keynote, leading you to the different workshops. But at the same time, if you are lost, please let us know if you have any questions. So we're going to go ahead and introduce Jenny Fernandez, the NC WIT and Technolochicas program coordinator. She's going to introduce the Technolochicas campaign, as well as Mariana, who represents Televisa Foundation. And so I'll go ahead and pass on the floor to them to give them a quick hand.
Yay. Buenos dias. How are you, Glendale? Come on, you had breakfast. How are you, Glendale? Okay, so we're extremely excited to be here for the second year in a row. Technolochicas is a campaign that you're going to learn all about throughout the day. We also have programs for middle school students that you'll also hear about throughout the day. We wanted to introduce a quick video, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what Technolochicas is, what we do. First of all, how many of you know about Technolochicas? Okay, some of you, by the end of the day, you're going to know all about it, and we're going to want you to be the next Technolochica and inspire the future generations of Latinas. So,
you look at the sky, and I think, I can't tell the depth. And the fact that I can't tell how far it goes for the sky, it makes me think, how vast can space be?
Technology has no barriers, and you can create whatever you want. It's like magic, but real.
I first discovered I liked technology when I took a high school chemistry class. Growing up as a bilingual kid, writing in English was something that was a little bit tough for me. But science and math, those were topics that I really could understand.
Studying technology has given me an idea of how the world works. I feel I've been able to understand more how I can make an impact in the world and society around me.
I am very excited to do new technologies with my students because I know that they will be the ones to change that technology in the future.
I wanted to be a part of a community that empowers other young Latinas to pursue careers in technology and all these exciting fields.
Seeing all these great women out there that are similar to myself, the one core thing that brings us together is that we want to help other young Latinas be exposed to science and technology.
Engineering isn't typically the careers that we hear about, especially for women, but you don't know that it's not what you want to do until you try it out.
IT is super fun. You can make anything happen, and all you need is just passion and be willing to learn something that's new.
I'm a computer science major.
I'm a sales insights manager.
I'm an Android engineer at Pinterest.
Materials engineer at NASA.
I am a teacher in Spanish and technology.
I work at Microsoft as a program manager.
I'm a chemical engineer.
I'm studying technology, arts, and media. I work as an engineer at Qualcomm.
And I work for NASA JPL on the Mars Curiosity rover as a mission lead.
If you have the willingness to achieve amazing things, to be creative, to dream, you are the perfect person for technology.
Yes. I would like to introduce you my partner in crime, Mariana Rios. She works with the Televisa Foundation out of Mexico. And Televisa Foundation is a partner with NCWIT, the National Center for Women and Information Technology. We work together to bring this Technolochicas programs to you, to the families, to the students, and to the broader audience. If you watch Univision, who here watches Univision? Las novelas, of course, we all do. So you will be able to see 30-second spots. If you're watching in the afternoon especially, you'll get to meet Ana, Beatriz, Noemi, all these fantastic Technolochicas that are out there working in the community, talking to the students, telling them what it is that they do, how they got there, getting them inspired so they can be the change leaders of the future. We're going to switch a little bit between Spanish and English throughout the day, so if Spanglish is fine with everybody, we'll go with Spanglish, okay? Mariana.
Hola a todos. Bueno, ahora hablo un poco en español, ya que vengo de la Ciudad de México. Bienvenidos a todos. Estamos muy emocionados de que estén aquí, que puedan conocer a las Technolochicas, porque las pueden ver en la pantalla, conocer su historia en nuestros videos y van a la página de technolochicas.org. So if you go to technolochicas.org, you can see all these women. There are 10 women in this video you just watched, and each one has a video of their own where you can learn more about what they're doing. And they're just like you guys. They were at school. Some of them were doing really well in school. Some of them were not. Everybody has their own story, comes from different backgrounds, different countries in Latin America, and they've all done so much. So if they did it, you can do it too. And some of them are here today, and others are here from like local area that are also involved in this type of work and technology and science. So you can meet them and you can learn from them what they're doing today. So you can also ask questions to them throughout the day and the workshops. So I'll pass the mic to Jani so she can continue.
All right, so next in our program, we're running on Latino time, so we're going to catch up here so we can get our workshops going. I would love to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Dr. Elisa Quintana. She's a research scientist with the SETI Institute at NASA Ames Research Center, where she works on the Kepler mission to help search for and characterize extrasolar planets. Recently, she led a team of astronomers to confirm Kepler 186f, the first Earth-sized planet found to orbit within the habitable zone of another star. Her research includes creating computer models to study the formation, dynamical stability, and habitability, that's a hard word, of rocky planets. So without further ado, Dr. Elisa Quintana.
Hi, everyone. Excellent. Great. Thank you so much for having me. This is really a really exciting event. I wish I was going to trip up those stairs, but I didn't. So I wanted to just give a little bit Well, I love that we just mentioned that everybody has their own story, because my story is not what I would consider role model like at all. It's been very up and down, and but I think it's important to know that every story doesn't have to be the perfect path that you see these people in engineering and science careers. Everybody does have their own, and so I'll first just say that I'm an astrophysicist at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. I just started a new job in January. And so first, I just wanted to give a little bit, talk a little bit about my so-called humble beginnings. So I was born in a small town in New Mexico. It's called Silver City. It's in the Southwest. And here's a picture of me. I don't know what grade I am, but I remember later on asking my mom why she made me wear dresses with a bib. This is it's definitely in the early 80s. So I grew up in this small town that ironically had, the most beautiful night sky. It was in the mountains, far away from any cities, and you could just see all the beautiful stars. So you would think that I would have said, oh, maybe I should, one day I'll grow up and be an astrophysicist. But that actually never crossed my mind until I was at a community college when I was in my early 20s. And part of it is because I had no role models. My dad was getting his master's in psychology, but he was pretty much the only one I knew that went to college. Everyone in my large extended family, and I was probably related to 80% of people in Silver City, New Mexico. They're really into agriculture and farming and teaching, and it was a beautiful town and lovely people, but it just wasn't a thing that you sent your kids off to college, especially not out of the small town. And so I basically just kind of stumbled my way into it. And so this is sort of how I envision my career path, the center part. So I went to Grossmont College. It's a community college in San Diego. And basically I went there with a lot of people from my high school. We called it 13th grade because a lot of people didn't know what they wanted to do. And so we wanted to, I was still interested in doing something, but I didn't know, and I was actually really lost now looking back at it. But at the time, there was a transfer program. I heard that UCSD canceled it, which I was really disappointed to hear. But at the time, there was something called TAG. It was a transfer guaranteed program. So if you took a certain amount of classes, you could automatically just go straight to UCSD. And so that was how I got into college. I think the California community colleges are so wonderful. My experiences at UCSD were that the classes were so large. I didn't get the attention that I got as, when I was at a community college. So I would actually recommend it to anybody that was interested in continuing their education. So I got a degree in physics, and I eventually went to graduate school at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And it really wasn't until 2 years into my community college studies that I thought, oh, I kind of like math. I took a math class, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And then it kind of piqued my interest. And slowly, I got into math. And once I was at UCSD, I found out I wanted to do something I still didn't know, but I found out that Sally Ride, who is the America's first women astronaut to fly in space, was actually a physics professor at UCSD. And I thought that was so cool. I was thinking, oh, I want to meet her. And so I just declared physics as my major. And then, which is really silly because she's like, okay, that's fine. So I got to meet her, and she ended up being a mentor. So she was really like the one that influenced me to continue staying in physics. But looking back, I consider my first role model as Judy Jetson, because I love space. I loved watching the Jetsons, and I thought it was so cool. And she's not really the ideal role model. Like, she goes to the mall, and she was Miss, solar system. But I think it really got me into space. And so here's Sally Ride. So I think it's important to have any sort of role model. One thing that Sally Ride would tell people is that you can't be it unless you see it. So you don't know that you can be something if you don't even know, that's something you can do. And, had she lived in Silver City, I maybe would have thought, oh, that's something I can do. No big deal. But, I encourage any of you as you continue with your education and your careers to always remember to do outreach and encourage people, because it does make a huge impact on people just to know that this is an option, right? So at UCSD, my first start into working on something NASA related was this program that Sally Ride started. And at the time, this was the 80s, so there was still a space shuttle going up in space, and they had a camera on the space shuttle that looked down at Earth. And basically, we worked on this pet project of hers where I took pictures of Earth, and we worked with students to study the pictures. And so basically, since 1995, I've been working on something NASA-related. So I did an internship at NASA Goddard. So NASA has a bunch of centers all over the country. NASA Goddard is near Washington, D.C., where I work now. So I interned there 20 years ago, and 20 years later, I got a job there. So this is me at a space shuttle launch. Wow, that was a long time ago. And so then NASA has a lot of programs that you can do after college. And so a lot of people, you study in school. Some people like to go to graduate school, but most people think that the only path when you're in graduate school is to go back and go teach again. And that's wonderful if that's what you want to do. But there, as you saw in the video earlier, there are so many career options. And so try to remember that. And if you can at any time, try to do some volunteering and try other things, because you might just find something that you had no idea you would like. And so my first sort of job right after grad school was working at NASA Ames, which is a NASA center in San Francisco. And I worked on this mission called Kepler. It was just starting to be built when I got there. And over the course of 17 years while I was there, I went from a student watching them design the spacecraft to working on it. It launched in 2009. And it was basically a spacecraft that was launched into space to search for planets orbiting other stars. And so, 20 years ago, we knew of the 8 or 9 planets in our solar system, depending if you call Pluto a planet. That's sort of something people are still trying to decide. And what this mission told us over 4 years of observing a bunch of stars really far away is that planets are everywhere. We now know of over 4,000 planets orbiting other stars. And so there are so many other solar systems. And I think this field is so interesting because it really puts you into perspective. You have your daily problems and you're like, well, I'm really just one speck of the solar system when there's like a million others. So sometimes I kind of like to think of these systems in space and try to put things into perspective. And here's the team, the Kepler team, excited that we found one of the first planets orbiting another star. So that was exciting. And so one of the main goals of this Kepler mission was, one, to see if there were other planets orbiting other stars. And the other was to see if we could find other Earth-sized planets. Because we think that, if the only planet that we know of that has life is our planet Earth. And that's basically all we know. We don't know if any of the other planets in our solar system do. And so this mission was really designed to see if there could be other Earth-like planets, because that would indicate that maybe there could be other planets that have other life, And so this goes back to this age-old question that people have been pondering for thousands of years is, are we alone? Are we the only planet that supports life? And so over the course of 4 years, we started finding planets that were big, like Jupiter, that couldn't have life. And then we'd find planets that were too hot. And so I was fortunate enough to be working with a group that was searching for these planets. And we found one. We actually found a planet that was just about the right size as Earth. It orbits a star that is just sort of, they call it in this Goldilocks zone, where it's not too close to the star where the star's heat would boil off the water. It's not too far where, ice would freeze. It could actually have liquid water on its surface. And as far as we know, that's what life needs. And so this is sort of the first hint that there could be, other solar systems with other life. And so this was the system I led, and I was so fortunate because this was really like the main goal of this $800 million mission was to find this planet. And so this is me announcing it to the world. We had a live press event. And that was scary, but I did it. So now I'm used to giving talks, but at the time, yeah, it's quite scary. And so this is what we have now. So all of these are solar systems that we've found with this one Kepler spacecraft. So if you can see these sort of outlines, these dots, that's the size of the orbits in our solar system. And so we're finding all these little solar systems that are like really close to their stars and bigger than Jupiter. And then it's just so crazy. There's all this physics going on that we thought we knew how planets formed, and then what we found doesn't make any sense. So it basically opened up a whole new set of questions for everybody. But it was exciting. And so after graduating for grad school, I did what they call postdocs. They're 2-year positions where you do more research. And typically people will do a postdoc and get a job. I did 3 postdocs because sometimes it's challenging getting a job. It's very competitive, but I did it. So January of this year, I got a permanent position at NASA Goddard. And so my official title, thank you. So my official title is actually astrophysicist, so I can put that on my business card. So here's me. NASA Goddard is building the James Webb Space Telescope. It's an $8 billion telescope that is going to launch, I think, early 2019. And this is where they're building it inside the what they call the clean room at NASA Goddard. And so before they shipped it off for testing, we actually got to see, come this close to an $8 billion mirror. And it's interesting seeing people work on it, because I'm like, how could they work on it? I'd be so afraid. And then I'll just go over the rest briefly. So NASA has this vision to really find out, are we alone? Is there life? The Kepler mission was just one step. We have Hubble and these early spacecrafts. Kepler's in the middle, which is what I worked on. Kepler taught us that there are Earth-like planets out there. Now, we have several other missions that I'm working on as well that are going to do the next step. They're going to find planets that are close to Earth and where we can study them more and look and see if we can study their atmospheres and look to see if we can actually find signs that would signify there could be life on these planets. And so right now I'm working on a mission called TESS. You'll hear about it in 6 months. It's supposed to launch in March of next year. It's a transiting exoplanet survey satellite. And this is really fun because it's a smaller team. It's a spacecraft the size of a washing machine. And it's going to take pictures of basically the whole sky. And so the Kepler mission basically looked at one patch of the sky for 4 years. And so it's equivalent of if you stuck your hand out, the size of your palm is the piece of sky that it looked at. And in that tiny patch of sky, it found 4,000 planets. And so we're launching TESS to look at the whole sky. So TESS is going to take pictures of basically everything you can see, your favorite constellation, and we're going to search for planets around everything. And so TESS, which you see down here, is basically going to be a finder scope. It's going to search the whole sky to find planets that could be like Earth. And once we find a bunch, we can go, oh, what is the best one what is the best one we should go study further that might actually have an atmosphere and might have life on it? And so it'll find the planets that James Webb, the one I just showed you in the clean room, is going to focus on. So TESS is finding the planets for this $8 billion mission to really focus on and really tell us if there's something there. And the way that it does it is there's James Webb. The big telescope is a James Webb Space Telescope. The way it does it is if there's a planet and the starlight going through, if any starlight goes through the atmosphere, you'll be able to detect some signatures. And every atmosphere will leave a certain imprint. And so like our Earth will, if you were to do this with Earth, you would see imprints of water and all these chemicals that only people, have sort of created. And Earth is unique, so we'll look at all of these planets and we'll be able to, at one point, say that planet has an atmosphere like Earth, and that planet has signatures that could only be attributed to life on life on that planet. And so I think it's really exciting that in our lifetime, we could actually answer this question if there's life on other planets. And this will happen in the next decade. And finally, the other NASA mission that I'm working on is called WFIRST. It's basically this gigantic wide field camera. If you remember, the Hubble Space Telescope took all these beautiful images of galaxies. The Hubble Space Telescope only really looked at an area, the piece of this little square. And so the mission I'm working on is this gigantic camera that's going to take a picture with the same quality as Hubble, and it's just going to be amazing. This is something, if anyone is interested in working for NASA, working on missions, building missions, or doing science, these are the missions that are going to be ready in the next few years that you could work on, and they're really, really cool. So just wanted to end with that. I wanted to just sort of convey how I did not have the typical path. It's actually quite ridiculous. When I talk to people that I work with, almost all of them say, "Oh, my dad was a physics professor, and it just was natural," or "Oh, when my dad bought me a telescope, when I was 3, I wanted to be an astronaut." And that's typically what you hear from people. But you can basically decide any time, and there's so many different career studies that you can do if you wanted to work at a place like NASA. Like basically anything. We have artists that design all of the beautiful pictures that you see when we find planets. We have people that study computer science that actually find the planets, and there's essentially any career that you wanted to, you could work on these really fundamental missions that are answering these questions that we never thought we could answer a long time ago. So I think I'll end with that, and I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you for having me. This is really fun.
Let's give it up for astrophysicist Elisa Quintana. Come on. She's a Latina that's literally living in the stars, exploring what's out there. And we want you guys to pick up where she leaves off and be the next astrophysicist. So we have time for some questions for Dr. Quintana. There has to be questions. Yes. Come on, don't be shy. We're family here.
How many people are working in the unit launch? And what's your specific role?
Okay, so the test mission has a large team at several different institutions. So MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, is the one that designed the idea. And so there's about a few dozen people working on it that are more scientists. There's the people that are building it it's being built by a company called Orbital, and in Virginia. They have places all over the country. So there's, I don't know, maybe 50 engineers that have been working to build it and design it. The Goddard Space Flight Center manages it, so they manage all of the budgets. And what I'm doing on TESS is developing what we call a guest investigator program. And so every mission has a team of scientists that decide what they want to do with that mission. But it's collecting so much data that you can do so much more, just besides what this small team can do. And really what is exciting nowadays is that anybody can use the data from all of these missions, because we are insisting that it becomes publicly available immediately. So you don't have to be a Harvard professor to do the science. You can be at a community college and download the same tools and find planets. And so my job is to develop this program where we can make sure that anybody can use this data to find anything, and we give them tools. And so if anyone's interested, my email is my first name dot last name, so elisa.quintana@nasa.gov. Feel free to email me, and I can give you more information. Because it's really sort of the people's telescope. I think that's what we're trying to make it.
Yes, you.
I go to Puck Excel, and do you like your job?
I do, yeah, it's really fun. I mean, school is a lot of hard work. As everybody knows here. And now that I work at Goddard and I'm done with school, a lot of my time I work on my computer, so I do a lot of computer programming. But we also get to take time, and when we find planets, we get to work with artists to figure out what they might look like. We get to go give talks, and we get to go talk to scientists and go to meetings around the world. If I could give any advice, if I could give my 20-year-old advice, my 20-year-old self advice, I would say the most important things no matter what area field that you want to study, I think it's really important to learn how to program. Basically every career you'll need to do some computer programming, and if not, then that's great. But it's a really good tool to have. You should learn how to communicate and do public speaking and good writing. And the other one is statistics, but that's only if you do astrophysics. I would say you should do statistics. A lot of astronomers don't know how to do that because that's not something that they typically study. So basically, programming is what I do, but I enjoy it.
My name is Tessa, and I go to San Jose Charter Academy, and my question is, so are you and other people trying to figure out if there could be life on Mars or Venus?
So that's a great question. So there are several ways that we can find out if there's life beyond Earth. One way to do it is to study the planets inside our solar system. And so if you look on a map, Glendale is really close to the Jet Propulsion Lab. Does anyone know anything that's going on at JPL that's really close by? Yeah, okay. So, okay. I would encourage anybody that's going to community college here, if you're interested in any of this, either contact me, but there's, JPL is sort of a NASA center. It's sort of it's not really a government, but it's part of the NASA family. So the Jet Propulsion Lab that's in Pasadena has a whole center that's working on studying Mars and studying Venus and studying the planets nearby. And they're definitely building a lot of spacecraft to look for life on those planets, absolutely. So there's people that study our solar system, and it's mostly at JPL, and then there's people that study other solar systems, which is what I do at the other NASA centers. But you should absolutely see if you can volunteer at the JPL. They do so many cool things, especially if you're so close. But yeah, that's a good question. That's the other way you can find life.
One more question.
My name is Rita, and I go to Roosevelt Middle School. And my question is, how many years did it take you to study after graduating high school to get your PhD?
Okay, so that's a good question as well. I took a lot longer. So I spent 3.5 years at a community college, and then 4.5 years finishing up at UC San Diego. Some people say typically 4 years is what you'd need for a college degree. I took like 6 or 7. For graduate school, the average is maybe 5 years. Once you finish college, if you go to graduate school for a PhD, I took 7. So you really can it's fine to take your time. And, everybody's experience is different. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, you're going to save your questions for later on after our workshops, because we want to get you guys down into your workshops, learning hands-on. Make sure that you ask a lot of questions while you're at your workshops and you get the most out of this experience. So any other words before sending them off?
I just want to be quick. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Quintana for taking her time to fly from D.C. to Los Angeles to share her experience with you. Because tomorrow she has to fly to Utah, give another presentation. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Very inspirational. I'm going to do a shameless plug before you leave, because as you know, she's a transfer from Grossmont Community College, which is San Diego. We're 114 community colleges in the state of California. We're a public community college. You can go for free to the community college if you qualify, depending on parents' income. There are a lot of programs. So a lot of you who applied directly from high school to the university and didn't get into the dream school, it's never too late. You know, your dreams can still still come true if you go to community college, do your transfer requirements, as Dr. Quintana has mentioned. They still have tag agreements to 6 UC schools. So you can work on your tag agreements, and I'm talking about general education and major prep here at Glendale Community College. And you can then transfer to UCLA and Berkeley, then go on and get a PhD at University of Michigan like Dr. Quintana. She's so inspirational, so inspirational. Thank you so much, you know. And one last thing, I hope everyone got a raffle ticket, because we are giving some really fun giveaways after the panel. So don't lose your raffle tickets, okay?
Can you believe that it's 1 p.m. and we're starting this part of the program on time? It's like, who are we? What did we do with our people over these workshops? Okay, so we're going to start the second part of this amazing day. But first of all, I wanted to hear a little bit about your experience during the workshops. Did you like them? Let me hear you say yay. Yeah! Woohoo! Great. Okay, so we're going to introduce the second part. We're going to get to meet all of the Technolochicas that are here today. But first, we have a special message from Eva Longoria.
Watch more inspiring stories about Latinas who are changing the world through achievements in technology. These Technolochicas are impacting our lives through their everyday work. Some are making apps that address social issues and help their communities, while others are engineering suits and rovers that go into space. They're using their voices to inspire thousands of young Latinas to reach for the stars and to work on the technology that will take us there. Let these 9 stories featuring Latinas in tech inspire and motivate you to find your passion and create your own story to share with the world. See yourself achieving amazing things, and know that no matter how big or small your contribution, you will write yourself into technology's next chapter. I challenge you to play a main role in the story of innovation.
Okay, so you heard Eva Longoria saying something like, watch these 10 stories, get inspired. We have 8 Technolochicas here with us today. However, we have Technolochicas ambassadors throughout the country. We have over 150 Latina role models conducting and doing these kinds of events every month. So if you feel, and I think you are, a future Technolochica, make sure that you visit our website and you see and you answer the questions that are there to complete a profile. Right now, Technolochicas are for high school girls and older, but hey, some of you are going to be in high school pretty soon. So check out our website, subscribe to our newsletter. Tons of resources for parents and for students and educators as well. We have them in Spanish and English. So if at any point we want to switch into Spanish, and I might pick on some of you because most of you do speak Spanish, and answer some questions, feel free to later on ask questions in Spanish. So I'd like to introduce you to our Technolochicas today. We'll give them all a hand of applause in a little bit once we introduce all of them. Bea Mendez Gandica, who works at Microsoft as a program manager. Hema Busoni, who is a startup founder. Noemi Aguiar, who is so many of you, so many careers. Noemi, you're a solutions architect. She'll tell you a little bit more about what that is. We have Mercy Manrique, who's also a startup founder. Yadira Valadez, a web developer. Leah Fernandez, UI designer. Janet Barrientos, software engineer, and Ana Hernandez. She is a computer science engineering student here at Glendale Community College. So, welcome, ladies. So, I'll start with those of you who are already in the workforce. What inspired you to pursue a career in tech. How did you discover tech? How did you get into it? I'll pick at two of you first, and then we'll move on to the next set of questions. That way we leave enough time for you to ask them. So, Bea, tell us, what led you to this path in technology?
So for me, I really, so when I grew up, there was this thing called Encarta. I know that none of you probably know it, but it's like a Wikipedia that faked in a CD. So I always wanted to work for that company, and that happened to be Microsoft. So since I was growing up, I'm like, how can I just be there? Because whatever I do there, it's going to be used by all over the planet. And so I went to school for MIS, which stands for Management Information Systems. And after I finished my school, I said, I would love to work in the tech world. Ideally, will be Microsoft, but if not, anything that has to do with technology. And I was super blessed and thankful that I was able to interview with them, and I got to them. And I just really enjoy it because I work in security, and what I do has effects in every single product and services that we do at Microsoft. So you don't see it because that's in the back end. So we make sure that everything is secure before we ship. But it's just that impact that I'm not letting any hacker get into our code. So I just want to get all the bad guys stay out. So for me, that's just very cool. That's how I got there. Yep.
Jana, do you want to share with us, how did you get into tech? What inspired you to pursue this field?
I got into tech. Well, I got into tech because I always was interested in how things were made, and I guess that's more like engineering in general. But in computer science specifically, through a program in middle school called MESA, where we had to build a web page. And so I started learning HTML. And I thought that was really interesting because it was very simple, few lines of code, and I had created a web page. And those were the days of MySpace, which you guys probably don't know what that is. But during the days of MySpace, many, many years ago, HTML was all the rage. Everybody was like, oh my God, can you edit my page? Because I want to add this song and change this background. And it was like the thing to do for kids. And then from there, when I went to high school, I started taking Java, and I really enjoyed it. And I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And then going to college, I started learning a lot more about just applications and everything that we could do and how vast it is and how much I still have to learn. And so, yeah, that was primarily my path interest through a program called MESA and through learning HTML.
So we have a lot of parents in the room, and we're extremely thankful that you're here with your daughters and your sons taking part of this event. And I just want you to hear from these women how important your role as a support system it is. So, Hema, you're here with your mom. Your mom also led a workshop. So please tell us a little bit about the role that your family has played in supporting you on your path into your career.
Yeah, probably. My mom was probably one of the most important things when it came to my career. I got into technology through hackathons and making video games. And so hackathons are these events where you go for 24 hours and you just try to build something. And so lots of cool stuff comes out of there. I always made video games, and I got really into it. But there weren't a lot of hackathons in LA at that time. There are tons now. So I would go to San Francisco a lot. My mom would drive me almost every other week. But she was incredibly supportive. She helped me look for opportunities for things that I was really interested in: video game development, VR, virtual reality, and just anything that interested me. She was always really, really adamant on pushing to find the best opportunities, which is how we found Technolochicas. I'm pretty sure I ended up at some Technolochicas event eventually, and then I got brought in, and it's been very, very good since then. But I think it's really important for parents to really help their students find what their passions are, and then really encourage them and help them to follow that path.
Anna, do you want to add to that a little bit?
Yeah, having parents there being very supportive is very important. My parents didn't necessarily know that much about tech, but when they saw that I was getting more involved in these after-school activities in middle school and high school, they actually volunteered by either my dad would get his truck and transport some of the equipment from the robotic competitions, getting it
from the school and out to the actual competition itself. And my mom sometimes she would usually go to all the informational meetings that we had, and sometimes she'd bring in food. And especially during the competition build season, we were there in the machine shop for long hours of the day. And so she would come in and drop off lunch, and then she would also make sure that if there was anything that the team needed, such as new tools or we needed a couple of extra dollars to get to our fundraising goal, she would go ahead and like help out there. But what I really appreciate from them is that even though they didn't know that much about the specifics of what I was doing, they were always there to listen. If I came back home one day and I said, "Oh, I learned this really cool thing," or I went to this really cool event, they would, especially during dinner, we would take about 10 minutes of our time to just go through everybody's day. I have like 4 other siblings, and so everybody's day, of course, had something important going on, but it really made me feel that they were listening and they were there for me, and that when I came back home, I always had someone to talk to, whether it was my dad or my mom. And it's just great that they've been so involved, and now my dad's learning more about what tech is, and my mom's sharing me pages of like, "Oh, look at this cool article I found, this might interest you." And so even though they weren't necessarily they didn't know a lot about it in the beginning, they at least tried to find out more about it, and that effort is really appreciated.
So for those parents who are here today, technolochicas.org/ESP, we have a Spanish version of our website, resources, and that are actually backed by research that are going to help you support your daughter's path into technology field. So thank you for that. Yadira and Leah have very similar types of careers. They work with web development, user experience design. So this question is for the two of you. Could you share a little bit about a time during your work that you had to make a decision, or you were kind of like not sure in which direction to go? Take us through your thought process. What made you persist and sort of accomplish something that you were supposed to accomplish?
Let's see. I think that's part of the everyday job, is just to like solve problems. So I really like to lean on my team, and I think collaboration is huge. I think being able to just bounce ideas back and forth from each other, and being able to lean on your teammate, that's really important. So yeah, I can't think of a particular time, but I think it's always like the same experience where you have to be on your feet and think.
I think similar to Leah, it's part of the everyday job. You know, there's always going to be something going on in the workday. And similar to like how you all did your workshops today, I'm sure there was parts of it where, you know, you had questions and you didn't know how to figure it out, and you were talking to each other and you were helping each other. That's kind of how my team and I work as well. I think some particular instances, like Leah and I were talking earlier, sometimes, you know, we'll come in with a problem that sometimes a designer brings in, and, you know, they tell us as developers, build it. And sometimes while it looks nice, there are some things that just won't work the way that overall it's envisioned. And so we have to do a lot of back and forth and a lot of compromise. And so that teamwork aspect definitely comes into play. And in general, when you do more projects, or if you go to hackathons or different events like this, like, you're going to be working with teammates. And so you have to learn how to communicate really clearly to each other, and also understand the problem. And so I think that whenever you go and face a problem, you have to really kind of break it down, like narrow it down to what really is the problem. What are you looking at? And kind of figure it out from there, and bounce ideas off each other.
Thanks. So for Mercy and Remy, we have girls here in the room that are, or young ladies in the room that are anywhere from middle school to high school. You haven't been out of college for too long, but still, what advice do you want to give these young women? What piece of advice do you think they should leave with today when it comes to pursuing a career in science, technology, engineering, math? Yes.
So basically with technology, there's different realms that you can go ahead and pursue. Sometimes maybe it's not fully like coding, but maybe it's the design aspect. Sometimes it could be like product management, that you're just overseeing other people. So there's different paths that you could go ahead and take. It's like the design, the UI, UX, or like coming up with a budget. So there's different aspects you could go into it. A lot of there's a new movement where there's nomad coders, so you could go ahead and travel. And there's people that travel to different countries, and all they need is Wi-Fi and a computer. And I mean, like, that's really inspirational. You could see like different countries, and you're still working in technology. So what I would recommend is to always network and just like go ahead and focus on your career and pursue it. What I found out is like it's 99% guys sometimes, so it's nice to have Technolochicas and have a source to like meet with other girls and network. And I mean, Technolochicas is nationwide, so I mean you could have friends in Washington and California, and I mean you get advice and role models on your career paths.
So I remember that growing up, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when it came to going to college or career-wise. So my recommendation would be, feel like nowadays we have so many resources. With the internet, it's just very practical, like through a smartphone or a laptop, and you have endless type of resources. So I really encourage everyone to try to go out there and use the resources, try to learn, try to find out about new topics, about new events. There's always a lot of events in the community that are free, and you learn about it, and you get to choose what you want to do, you know, what makes you happy and what you can, you know, what you can do in the future. So I remember growing up, I didn't really know much about it. So what I would do, I would just go on the internet and research. And I would just go to different events and try to learn new topics here and there. And eventually that's what brought me to my current career.
Thank you. So I'll ask one more question, and then feel free to let me know, just raise your hand which one of you wants to answer it. But this is also a question for you in the audience, and I want you to think about this. So what are your hopes and aspirations for Latinas when it comes to the role they play in innovation in the future? Where do you see your daughters, your sisters, your hermanitas, your nietas, your bisnietas? Where do you see Latinas fitting into this big picture of technology? What are they doing? What are they creating? So just anybody here, if you want to.
Currently at my job, I do like testing. I'm the only girl in my team. Granted, we are a small startup, but out of like maybe 6 people, I'm the only girl. I'd like to see another girl sit across from me in meetings, to not just be the only one. And particularly if they were Hispanic, because I think I'm actually the only Hispanic engineer at the small startup where I work in. So that's what I like to see like more change and diversity in the general workplace.
I mean, I think you could really fill any role that you'd like to, and I think it'd be incredibly valuable. So there's a lot of different roles in technology. There's anything from being a coder to being like a product manager to being a designer. There's non-technical roles in technology too. And so some of the most inspiring roles I've seen recently is like one of the heads of business development at Unity, a company we're working with, is a Latina. And she's like, everyone goes to her because one of the biggest clients is Latin America. But because there's so few Latin American like workers there, everyone just goes to her and they're like, we don't know how to Spanish, or like, we don't know how to infiltrate these countries. Like, we don't even know what it's like there. So, I mean, your insight is very important. I know I'm like working with them to do our outreach into Latin America, and it's just like, well, there's so few Latinos here, you guys, we need more, right? They're like, women and Latinas, it's a double whammy. You have a lot of different perspectives to add to just about anything. Just having a male perspective or just having a like Caucasian perspective on something is not going to reach, it's not going to make whatever you're making as good as it can be. As cliche as it sounds, like having so many different perspectives on something can help you develop something a lot better. So any role that you think that you can have, you absolutely can have it, and you're probably helping people by having it.
My name is Tessa, and I am from San Jose Charter Academy. And what I could see the next generation of Latinas doing is becoming brave and strong leaders and creating things that people never thought could be created.
Anybody else from the audience over there?
My name is Xiomara Salinas, and I'm from Avance Middle School. And what I see in the future is I see Latinas creating a lot of technologies, making things that no one's ever seen, doing a lot of things.
Great, of course.
My name is Sienna Castaneda, and I'm from San Jose Charter Academy. And I think that in the future, Latinas will be doing stuff that usually men do, but then they'll change that because both of them will do it.
I don't want to point. The one in the left, the first one? What's your name again?
Bea.
Okay. My name is Jimena, and I have a question for you.
Okay.
Okay, so you know how you said you want to keep the bad guys out?
Mm-hmm.
Do some of them like go in sometimes, or like they trying to go in, but like you block them off or something?
So that's a cool question. So security, it's like a very vast area, and I focus on the proactive versus reactive. But just to answer your question, there are hackers all over the world that pings Microsoft, Google, Facebook, all the big sites in millions of hits a day. Like we can record maybe like 100,000 hits that they're trying to hack into our Microsoft servers in a minute. And a lot of them come from Russia, North Korea, all these countries, China, and they try to get into our service, because if you can get into our code, you can do exactly what Microsoft does, what Google does, what Facebook does, or any other company. So what we do is we try to make sure that all our engineers are coding in the right way, meaning don't have your password when you're coding, don't have certificates, not have like anything that you do in your code has to be secure. Because at the moment I put something in there that you or somebody that's malicious wants to get it because they want either ransom to say, hey, I'll give you your code back, but this is how much I want, or I'm gonna use this to do bad stuff. So that's what we try to do. And in my role, as I say, I'm proactive, means every time an engineer codes at Microsoft, we run a tool, and those tools say, hey, you got a flag here. Hey, you forgot to do this. Or hey, you got a password here. You should remove it. So that's what we do. Then the engineer goes and fix it. And once there's no bugs or like no issues in the code is when we can go and ship. Yeah.
I have a question. How do you all made this happen? What did you do to make it happen?
How did you make it work? How did you make it here?
In high school, there was a tech academy program in my high school. So my parents didn't actually know what it meant to be in tech. They still think that I just fix computers, which is kind of like. But I fell in love with it. I did a different degree in college, but then afterwards I'm like, I really love tech. So I came back to it, and there's a lot of resources, so you could be self-taught. So you could actually look online, learn different languages, and basically teach yourself. Afterwards, I started getting referrals for clients and basically build my own startup. So there's different paths that you could go ahead and take, like go through college or teach yourself, or there's different paths you could take.
Hi, my name is Natalia Castillo,
and I think in the future Latinas are going to prove men wrong or other people that thought that they can do it.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question, and then one from a parent back here.
Okay, so my name is Isabella Garcia, and I have a question for you guys. Growing up and trying to get where you are now as a Technolochica, did you guys ever face any comments or any negativity saying that you couldn't do it just because you were a woman or because you were Latina?
Yadira has an answer.
Growing up, like I think from like elementary school, I feel like Latinas and young women are discouraged to go into these fields. You know, like from a young age, you start having these roles, right? Like boys can do this and girls can do that, and that starts from like early age. And I'm talking like, I mean, our parents do it, you know, from like the time we're born. You know, they give us certain roles, and so, you know, to get here, you have to have a certain resiliency. Like that's one thing. Like you can be super smart, or you could be an average student. I feel like I was a very average student. I wasn't a 4.0 student. I didn't have like the superstar grades, but I was resilient. And there was all the time, there's professors, even in college, who, you know, would make comments, and they had pretty much all men. I went to a university of about 40,000 students total. And some of my engineering classes were 300 students, and I would be one of 10 women in those classes, and then I would be the only woman of color in those classes. And so, you know, sometimes even professors would slip up and, you know, refer to all of us as men, or make sure that the men heard what they had to say, and so that would discourage me a lot. But I think, like I said, you have to have some tough skin, and that's kind of why these support systems exist. I actually started working with Jenny when the campaign had just started. So I was kind of there in the early building blocks of this program and kind of seeing where it went, and we did a lot of talking, a lot of feedback on a lot of the workshops and stuff. So, you know, that's where these come in from, and you have to really take that under consideration, that like you can do this. Support systems are great. My parents were really supportive, but at the same time, like you have to love what you do in order to keep going.
We had a question back here, last row, all the way up against the wall, and then we'll go into raffles. Yeah, the exciting stuff.
Hi, my name's Eddie. I'm a proud father. My daughter Ina, we are from Rosemead. I just wanted to make a comment. It's kind of twofold. One, I am extremely proud to be Latino and to see all of you here pursuing something that that you're interested in and perhaps love. You are all a part of a generation that now has been exceeding in probably every aspect of technology. We didn't get to grow up with telephones or even Netflix. And I know you all love Netflix and YouTube, right? Those things are transforming technologies. So you guys actually have tools that we didn't have when you were growing up. So I'm really excited to see what you guys are going to be able to do. And you're growing up, maybe perhaps some of you are affected by that old mold of women should be this or that role. But I think we're in the time now where that is also changing as well. I know I've tried to raise my daughter to break that mold so that it's non-existent, so that you guys can just, the sky's the limit. You can do anything you want to do. And so I'm really happy you guys all are here, and I'm all proud that you guys are all Latinos as well. But girl power, I know you guys are going to do some really cool stuff. That's it.
Okay, so we're running short on time, and I know that because we have a lot of great prizes, you won't mind staying like an extra 5 minutes, right? Okay, so just to conclude and to wrap up and to give you 2 takeaways. Parents, your daughters are represented right here. Encourage their dreams, their aspirations, their goals. You know, don't define them and don't lock them in a box where you think that they should only pursue one thing. Just so you know, the average starting salary of a computer scientist or a computer engineer is $97,000. That's 3 times as much, almost 3 times as much as the average family income for a Latino family. So think about not just the money, it's great, but also how your daughters can be part of this field where they can also have the opportunity to help their families, to help their community, to give back. And young ladies, those of you who are here, your takeaway, you can do it too. There's no such thing as limits when it comes to what careers to pursue. Technology should definitely be in the forefront of your choices when you start deciding what you want to do after you graduate from high school. So again, thank you, Technolochicas, for your wisdom and advice. And now Richard and Maricela are going to close it off for us today. So thanks again for coming in. Careful, careful. Despacito. Despacito.
Well, again, I'm just so eternally grateful to Danny Fernandez and the wonderful Technolochica professionals. So inspirational. You keep me going. I mean, the fact that, you guys are willing to come and do it out of the kindness of your heart, to give back, to inspire, and to come here all the way from all over the country. I mean, really, they come from all over. One came all the way from France, stopped in New York for a little bit, and came here the next day, Leah. And some of you came from all the way from Boston and from other places. So really, give them another hand of appreciation. It's amazing. We do have prizes for you. Yeah. So let's take these out. Okay, so we have some really nice, wonderful gift cards. And we also have a special gift from NASA by Marlene Sungard. She's a systems engineer at NASA here at JPL. Thank you so much. We're actually going to give these out. She said they're rare. For all you science nerds out there, you're going to want to have this poster. I watch a lot of the, Pawn Stars, and they sell posters, when they are like vintage and stuff. So you never know, right? So let me open these up. All right.
Wait 1 second.
Yes.
1 second. Who's a teacher, educator, please stand up. Please stand up.
Yes.
You guys. All of you guys, thank you so much. Thank you.
And you guys, here on a Saturday,
yes.
I don't know if you're getting overtime, and I really doubt that you're getting overtime. Yep, crack of dawn. You are advocates. The fact that we work together to make this happen. You guys, the teachers, inspire. Thank you so much. This is wonderful.
One more. What about our parents? Los papás, las mamás, parents? Get up.
Los
Come
padres,
on, stand up,
por favor.
Arriba. You guys are the key.
Give them a hand. Muchas gracias por apoyar sus hijos. I just want to take a quick second to acknowledge some of the schools represented here. One is the Youth Policy Institute Academy. Where are you? Thank you so much for being here, for being well represented. One also acknowledges Aspire, their T-shirts. I'm so impressed. You can see the Latina Power Conference. That's great. La Montebello School District. They just left. And everyone else, thank you so much. It's probably a whole list of things. Thank you once again for coming. Hope to see you next year. We'll be sending you electronic surveys. Please complete them. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.